Welcome, and thank you for joining us at All Points Fasteners University. This primer is on our second most sold product, needlepoint screws. You're going to hear needlepoint screws called all sorts of different names. The most popular will be zip screws. That's really a brand name, and kind of like Kleenexes to nose tissue, except now everybody uses it generically. You'll hear them called sheet metal screws, which they are. It's just a particular version of sheet metal screws. Speed points, self-piercing screws, and self-tapping screws, which can really get you in trouble. They are self-tapping, but that has nothing to do with the tips of the screws or the points of the screws. It's got everything to do with the threads, and you'll learn more about that later. The industries that use zip screws the most are the heating and air conditioning industries. They'll use them for their ductwork and installation. The gutter industry, which loves the stainless zip screws and the copper plated zip screws. And the siding industry. They like zip screws, but the heads need to be painted, and we've got an upgraded version that they are just loving. Let's start with the diameter of the screw. Think of it like a dress size. The bigger the number, the thicker the shank. So a number 10 shank will be thicker than a number 8. Sometimes you won't know what shank size you need, but with the right information, it'll be pretty easy to figure that out, at least with hex-headed screws. To help you determine the shank size of a hex-headed screw, measure across the flat of the head of the screw. It's going to be one of three measurements: 1/4 inch, 5/16, or 3/8. If it's a 1/4 inch hex drive, it'll be either a number 6, number 7, or number 8 shank, and probably a number 8 shank because that's the most popular. Number 7s are super rare, and number 6 sometimes, but number 8 is the most popular. 5/16 hex drive will either be a number 10 or a number 12 screw shank. In the heating and air conditioning industry, it'll probably be a number 10. Some companies do like number 12s, but 99.9% of the time, they will want a number 10 shank. The easiest is a 3/8 hex drive, number 14 screw shank. The 18 in the above example of 8-18 by 1/2 inch screw refers to the number of threads per inch, also referred to as TPI. To determine the length of a hex-headed screw, measure from underneath the head of the screw to the tip of the screw. Contractors will often ask for self-tappers when they want a zip screw. Now, zip screws are self-tapping, but it's because of their threads, not because of their points. Their points are self-piercing. So it's very important to ask, if they ask for a self-tapper, exactly what the point looks like. Here are the two different types of points. Both will be called self-tappers. If somebody asks for a self-tapping screw, ask them what the screw looks like. Does it have a point like a pencil? Or does it have a point like a drill bit? Self-tapping screws. What does that mean? The easiest explanation is that a self-tapping screw does not need matching female threads, such as what you see in a nut. It will tap its own threads in the material it is being drilled into. Okay, final time. Let's get started. Needlepoint screws are often called. There are 5 answers. They're often called zip screws, sheet metal screws, speed points, self-piercing screws, and self-tapping screws. Needle points are often used in which industries? Most common uses for needle points are the heating and air, gutters, and siding industries. How do you measure a hex head screw to find out what magnetic hex chuck you need to use? You measure across the flat of the hex head. What are the three sizes of hex drives available? Quarter inch, 5/16, and 3/8 inch. What three shank sizes have a quarter inch hex head? Number 6, number 7, and number 8. What two shank sizes have a 5/16 head? Number 10 and number 12. What shank size has a 3/8 hex head? Number 14. How do you measure the length of a hex-headed screw? You measure from underneath the head of the screw to the point of the screw. What makes a screw self-tapping? The screw taps or cuts its own thread into the wood or metal versus needing a nut. What a great job! You get an A+. And thank you. Join us for the next primer, Self-Drilling Screws, at All Points Fasteners University.